It is now my distinct pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Stu Macintosh. In 1994, Stu Macintosh was a leading sales manager for a Fortune 500 company, Purina. And I got to talk to him, and he was telling me how good their dog food was, because I just got myself a new Greyhound about a month and a half ago. And so he's told me which is the best dog food to go and get, so I want to thank Stu for that. But when he was a manager for the Fortune 500 company, Purina, he instantly lost his sight. I can't imagine what that would be like, to be sighted all your life and then just to lose it like that. Suddenly finding himself unsighted and unemployed, Stu experienced the greatest struggle of his life. He's here today to share with all of us his struggles and his successes, and I am sure Stu will inspire all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, please make very welcome Stu Macintosh.
Thank you very much for that introduction, and thank you also to the Face-to-Face Committee for inviting me here today. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And I'll start my story with, I was born and raised in a small village, Wheatley, Ontario, just on the shores of Lake Erie. And in that small village of only about 1,200 people, most people were either commercial fishermen or farmers. And we were farmers. And as I grew up on that farm in Wheatley, Ontario, we had many beef cattle, usually had about 80 beef cattle, and a stable of racehorses. And of course the land to grow the crops on. So there's never any shortage of work. And one of the busiest times on that farm was during the season where you brought in the hay and the straw. Because of course all that livestock had to be fed and bedded down in the evenings. And I remember being 10 years old and really wanted to be part of that haying crew. I really wanted to be part of that crew that brought in the hay and put it up in the hay mound so we'd have it to feed the horses and cattle. Now I liked to weigh about 70 pounds when I was 10 years old, and a bale of hay liked to weigh about 60. But at 10, my dad finally said to me, he said, "Son, you're ready to be part of the haying crew." And I couldn't wait. I was very enthusiastic about that. And he gave me the easiest job. Really, my job was to take the bale of hay from the wagon, put it on the elevator or conveyor belt, went up to the hay mound for the guys to put away. In between two farms, we usually baled about 6,000 bales of hay. And I remember my first day on the job, I was all anxious, and I was part of the crew, and all the guys were, much older than I was, of course, grown men. And my first day on the job, I started out great, and after about 50 bales, I realized something. This isn't fun. This isn't fun at all. 5,950 to go. And I started slowing down and goofing off and not doing my job properly, and of course it slowed up the whole crew. They were waiting for the bales of hay to come up to the mound, and they weren't coming up quick enough to keep the crew busy. And at break time, I was sitting under the shade tree, and my dad came up to me and he said, "Son, we're counting on you. We're counting on you to be part of this team. We're counting on you to be part of this crew. We're counting on you to hold up your corner." To hold up your corner, those are words I've never forgotten. Hold up your corner. Of course, what it means is that you're going to take some of that weight on your shoulders and distribute it equally amongst the whole team so the team can function properly and do its job. You're going to hold up your corner. When I finished my education, I actually trained racehorses for a few years, and then I took a job with Purina. Like Joe said, Purina is best known for pet foods, but they do sell large animal feeds, and they own Ever-Ready Battery and Nestle's, and at one time they owned Hostess, so they're a huge, huge international company. And my job, as I moved up the ranks with Purina, was to do a lot of traveling. I traveled all of North America, coast to coast, from Halifax to Vancouver. Quite often I'd be in St. Louis at their head office, and Like I say, my life was a lot of travel. Went to go to beautiful places like Hawaii, Bahamas, all in the name of business. Not a bad way to make a living. You know, at that time of my life, I felt like the luckiest man in the world. Wife, 2 beautiful daughters, great career, all this travel. I couldn't have been a happier guy and felt very, very fortunate the way my life was going. In 1994, I detected some blurriness in my eyes and went to the doctor who was diagnosed as cataracts. Now, cataracts are just like, sort of like looking through a dirty window. It's the lens at the front of your eyes that clouds over, and it's a very simple procedure to get that corrected. Now, I was quite young for that to happen, but it can happen, and they said it wouldn't be a big problem getting rid of the cataracts. In April of 1994, I went down to University Hospital in London for the surgery, and I remember very well that day. It was a beautiful sunny day, blue skies, white billowy clouds, green grass, and I remember just looking on the telephone lines at the birds, that they were blurry, and that the license plates in front of me, the car in front of me, were just a little bit out of focus. I thought, boy, I can't wait to get this corrected and get back to my normal vision for my golf game and my work and everything that I enjoyed. During the surgery, and during that surgery, you're not put to sleep. Your eyes are only frozen and you're awake for the surgery, and you feel a slight tugging sensation. And during the surgery, the doctor's talking to me, and he said, I have 1 suture left to put in your eyes, Stu, and you'll be all set. At the exact moment, I felt tremendous pain in the back of my head, and everything started to close in and become very dark and black. And the last glimpse of light that I ever saw was that big operating lamp above my head, and that doctor's face slowly fading to darkness. Now, what had happened, as I found out later, because they did put me to sleep because of the pain, and when I woke, they told me I had a massive hemorrhage. And that massive hemorrhage had caused bleeding in the back of my eyes and caused great damage to my retinas. I did stay in the hospital another 25 days, underwent 2 radical surgeries, but the surgery could not repair the massive damage. You know, in that split second during that surgery, my life and my family's life changed forever. In that split second, I was plunged into total darkness, total blindness. Now, I do remember returning home, like I say, expecting to see that blue sky, green grass, white billowy clouds, the sunshine, the birds, in focus. But I came home that day in a tunnel of darkness. And I can't tell you how traumatic that was to come home and not know your own home, have difficulty moving around your own property that you knew so well, and the terrible depression that came with that. It was very, very difficult moving forward. Like, I never thought, I'll never smile again. I'll never laugh. I'll never be happy. How am I going to be productive and raise my family and make a living as someone who can't see? All those thoughts kept me in that tunnel of darkness. I couldn't imagine how I was going to get out and continue with my life. I think as time went on, I did realize something, and my daughters made it very clear that they needed a father. They needed a guide. They needed somebody to be in charge of the household, move forward with my life so I could obviously raise them properly, give them all the things that they deserve, like an education, paying for weddings, all the things that parents want to do for their children. Those words came back to me that my dad said, "Son, you've got to hold up your corner. You've got to make a difference. You've got to take some of that weight on your shoulders so you can properly help your family. You have to be part of that team. You've got to hold up your corner." And really from that day forward, I was able to move forward. I took all the help that was out there that I could get my hands on. Canadian National Institute for the Blind gave me training with the white cane and mobility and braille and how to use a computer with a JAWS package on it, which I still use to these days every day, which helps me to use a computer like anybody else would. I use a keyboard like anybody in this room would. I type in everything I need and the computer reads it back. So all these technological things have helped me to move forward with my life. Unfortunately, during the first few years, my marriage dissolved, which is very common when these traumatic events happen. So I was really left with my 2 daughters and myself. At that time, likely my lowest point was no job. My marriage had dissolved, 2 daughters to raise, and I couldn't imagine how I was going to do that. But I knew I had to continue to move forward. I started doing motivational speaking and actually started speaking across Ontario, played in bands to make extra money, did whatever I could to make ends meet, because unfortunately the company I worked for just couldn't see how it could work me coming back to work for them as someone who was unsighted. As time went on, I had different ideas of what I wanted to do, and one of the ideas is to be able to help people in my circumstance to get into the workplace, to level the playing field. I formed a company in '99 in Insight Enterprises, and it was just one personnel, which was myself. I started the company basically at my kitchen table and moved forward, did work for ODSP, helping people get jobs, maintaining those jobs, providing job coaching. Company grew slowly, and now we are 4 offices in Chatham, Windsor, Essex, and Leamington, and we employ 25 people. As the company grew, so did my life. Everything started to fall into place. Got remarried in 2005 to the lovely Paula. She works with me in the company and has helped move the company forward tremendously since she joined. We do a lot of work for different organizations now. We do a lot of work for Workplace Safety and Insurance Board, for private insurance. We basically assess people using various outside sources and people within our own organization to write plans and to help people vocationally move forward with their life. We deal with a lot of injured people and people with all kinds of disabilities that we feel very proud to have helped and changed their lives into working people that can contribute to their households, contribute in taxes, and make such a big difference in their lives. I know how that feels. I know how important that is to someone.